No problem. And you know what? I want to give a quick shout out to Graham Rahal and Rahal Letterman Racing. As you know, we are huge into supporting the troops with this show. That's really kind of our identity in a lot of ways. With the AMVETs and the people that we support are the troops. So hats off to Graham Rahal, United Rentals, Turns for Troops, and I'm forgetting one, Rick, and I'm sorry, but check out Rahal Letterman Racing. Great what they're doing for the troops. So we'll get back to you now, Matt, out at the track, out at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We get ready for bump day. Let's kind of start going through these 35 cars, if you will, in no particular order. But we do want to talk about the ones that we think might get bumped. And, we saw the wreck yesterday with sorry, I do apologize.
Davison.
My brain went. Yeah, Davison. He might be one that we see bumps. So talk to us about the most logical bumps that you see happen. And, we talked that Pippa Mann might be one of those. But, I've seen her out at the track all this week, and she means business. Go ahead, Matt.
For instance, while I'm going through this, why don't I suggest our listeners to go to the Twitter page, Open Wheel Now, and then click on the Final Griditology page. That has my last list of who I think is getting in and who is not. And I think you will notice there's some names that you expect to be down there. For instance, like a Kyle Kaiser, who has struggled for pace. Obviously, James Davison with a major thrash. He is running laps right now in the 224 range, which I don't think is going to be enough to get him in the show if he runs that in qualification mode. And then, of course, like we said, Graham Rahal, 225.2, I think is going to be borderline to make this field. That's what he ran just now in the morning warm-up. And you look also down, Pippa Mann, I think, is in some danger. Zachary Clement de Mello is another one that's going to be another driver. I think is going to be having sweaty palms. Maybe even a Gabby Chavez, who looked good with tow runs, but no draft. The best I think he's able to get was a 225. So there are several guys who I think are in that position that, and add to that, some of these guys did not get a good draw. And if the track continues to warm up like it might be doing right now, that bad draw could be devastating. It could be devastating for a guy like Ed Carpenter, who, drew number 70 in the fill bag. Actually, his son Ryder drew number 70, and that means he will be the last car to go in the initial line.
I'm not gonna say a guy like Graham Rahal is not going to get in the Indianapolis 500. A guy like Graham Rahal is going to find a way to get into the Indianapolis 500. I'm looking at guys who have never raced in the Indianapolis 500, maybe teams who have never fielded a car in the Indianapolis 500. I'm looking at guys who don't have that experience, and experience goes a long way here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And we'll have Rick put up your Griditology tweet there at Popular Open Wheel Now, and retweet that out so that people can check out your Griditology. But so let's kind of just go through the entry list here. Let's talk about, and again, really in no particular order, just the way that I've got the teams put together. So we're going to go through each of these. We want to make sure we get through all of them. So we're going to go through each and every 33 cars. We may be talking about multiple teams at multiple points because Penske's scattered throughout the field. You got Andretti scattered throughout the field. So we're not really doing it by team order. We're just kind of doing it by the entry list. So we'll start with Joseph Newgarden. Obviously, he's in the number 1 car. Team Penske doing a fantastic job. And obviously, I put him up there in my top-tier picks that could win the Indianapolis 500. Joseph Newgarden, Matthew.
I think right now you look at Newgarden, he certainly is a threat. Now, he's not the greatest of qualifiers, but I think, with the extra pace that Chevrolet engine now gives him, he's got a much better shot to qualify, similar to what he did when he just missed the pole the year, I believe, Hinch won it, which is 2016. Correct me if I'm wrong. But ultimately, you look at that list and you talk about Team Penske. Exactly 30 years ago, they swept the front row for the Indy 500. They put Rick Mears, Danny Sullivan, Al Unser Sr. With the top 3 all Penske's yesterday on the non-tow list, we could see history made for just a second time by 30 years. If there's a very good chance they could go 1, 2, 3. If not today, certainly tomorrow.
Well, that brings us to another Penske driver, Elio Castroneves. Now, I want to tell you what. You might think that he's not a big race car driver if you're not a race fan, but he's probably the biggest in the world. And it was evident of that as I watched him walk through the garages, walk through the pits, the crowd just congregates on him like mad ants. So certainly Elio Castroneves, his only IndyCar run this year is at the Indianapolis 500. As we know, he's moved over to the Sports Car Series with Penske. But Elio Castroneves is in the old Rick Mears yellow submarine, if you will, running around the track at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And Elio Castroneves is always a fan favorite. You cannot rule him out.
You can't rule him out, especially considering he finished sixth in the IndyCar Grand Prix last week. Very quietly finished sixth, might add. But, yeah, the 229.5 that he threw down this morning without a tow, I think, is definitely a sign that he's got something in the bag. Amazingly, though, of the guys that were on the non-tow times among the top three for Penske, he wasn't one of them. He was only 11th. So the draw is a decent number. I got the draw in front of me. I think he'll be, fourth on the track in this early session when we get underway at 11 a.m. So if the conditions are good, you could be talking about Castroneves as maybe one of the early favorites, possibly to be the top timer today as far as advancing to the Fast Nine, looking ahead to Sunday.
So, hey, Matt, real quickly, if you can just tell us real quickly what your Twitter handle is, where people can look at your griditology so that Rick can get that up for you.
Mattheembury is my Twitter page, and actually, believe it or not, it's funny where I'm actually located right now. I had to get out into one of the indoor areas because the cars are so loud. I'm actually look at all the photos I've had here, and I should mention Indy 500 Photo Shop. There's cases. There's one just at Pagoda Plaza where I'm at right now. There is also another area at the second floor of the Indianapolis Hall of Fame Museum. There's a lot of interesting stuff there that's available that they'll look through, and also a bunch of stuff on that they could search through via computer. So there's a lot of different good stuff here. So if you get a chance, if there's a possible delay or something like that, stop by one of the Photoshop areas. There's a lot of interesting stuff here.
Oh, absolutely. So go to your Twitter page, Matthew Embury, and then at Popular Open Wheel, and your griditology page is there. So let's go to AJ Foyt Enterprises, TK's teammate Matthews Least. I had a chance to talk with him yesterday, and he is really, really excited about being out at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and he's especially excited about being a part of AJ Foyt and being a teammate to Tony Kanaan. But Matthew Least might be one of those guys that we look at the end of the day that won't be in the field of 33.
Actually, I think Lace could be a threat for the top nine. He really could. I mean, he was consistently firing off 227 averages in simulated runs in the heat of the day when guys were struggling to get to 225, 226. In fact, he was even going faster than TK was. So if you're looking, I love Mel Kiper Jr.'s saying, boom or bust. Matthias Lace could be your boom and bust pick to make the top nine. If you're saying guys that possibly get up there that you don't expect to be there, that 4-car, I think, is a definite threat to pull a huge surprise today if he could get the perfect conditions and he can run 4 clean laps, which certainly that's always a question mark because he's a very aggressive driver. And as we've seen in the first 5 rounds this season, aggression has gotten the best of him on a couple of occasions.
You know, Schmidt-Peterson Motorsports, the Honda, has a great stable. You know, you look at Wickens. You look at Robert Wickens, James Hinchcliffe, saw him out at the track yesterday with his brother, give him a little commercial promo there. Get his book. Get his brother's book, Chasing Checkers. It's a really good book that's come out, and they were doing a joint autograph session yesterday where you could get the book signed and get an autograph by James Hinchcliffe. But James Hinchcliffe, Robert Wickens, Jay Howard, all Schmidt-Peterson Motorsports, and we saw the danger that Robert Wickens did here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway last week at the Grand Prix. And I tell you what, if you didn't know any better, you would not think that Robert Wickens was a rookie. This might be a bold pick, and it probably is. But my God, that kid can race. And you know what? I would not be shocked if tomorrow afternoon, if we're talking about him being a P1 or P2 or P3 for the 102nd running of the Indianapolis 500. So those 3 drivers you got to take a look at today.
Wickens, yes. Cliff for a different reason. Howard for a different reason. Hinch and Howard are struggling without the tow. For some reason, Wickens ran a 227 without any problem, but Hinch was only able to get to 225, and I think Jay Howard was only in the 225s. And then their satellite car, Jack Harvey, I think is a definite danger of being knocked out of the field. So if you were talking about Schmidt being a pre-favorite like we were in initial griditologies, they've certainly disappointed so far this week.
So let's go on down here to Scott Dixon. I saw on his wife's Twitter, Emma, that he has kind of been underneath the weather. Hopefully that doesn't come into play and affect him, and I don't think it will, but you got to look at all the variables when qualifying for the Indianapolis 500. He's going to qualify. He's Chip Ganassi's star baby. He's Scott Dixon. He's going to qualify. And he's going to be in the 500. Just where, we don't know. But Scott Dixon, what are your thoughts?
Well, obviously, as you saw, if you look through my griditology page in the opening, I mentioned that migraine situation. And when you have to focus as much as you do for 4 laps, essentially hold your breath for 2.5 minutes, everything has got to be perfect. And if you are even a slight entry off, you've ruined the whole run. So that is if he struggles, that's definitely got to be considered a factor. And then, of course, you talk about Ed Jones, another guy that's been a disappointment this week, only 225s for Ed. Another guy that I thought was going to be a top 9 threat, I believe, if I remember correct, I don't have it in front of me. I think I had him on row 8 in my projection for today. That is like 22nd to 24th. And when have we had a Ganassi car qualify that low for a while? It's been a while.
It's been a while. Well, let's keep on going down the list. Obviously, Will Power. Will Power owns the road course out at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. He's not succeeded as well on the ovals as he does on the road courses, but Will Power is a great driver, a great guy. Had an opportunity to hang out at his pit box yesterday afternoon, and I know that they are really dedicated to getting into the top Fast 9. I think they can do it. Will Power, another Team Penske driver.
He's the one to beat today. I mean, you don't get 50 poles in your career with Penske because you're just lucky. You look at the situation right now. He ran the 229.7, and you think he ran at least 2 more 229s without the AVA draft, all on his own in a row yesterday around the same time in which he'll qualify today. If you look at that scenario, I think right now the situation is perfect. He put it all together on that first run. I have a hard time seeing anyone else, even his 3 other teammates, being able to top him for being the top seed looking ahead to Sunday in the Fast 9. And like I said, it's funny how things change. I mean, last year we were talking about where was Penske? In fact, 2 of their Penske, like I mentioned, Ed Jones in row 8, possibly for Ganassi. There were 2 Penske cars on row 8 last year for this race. And all of a sudden, now you've got a chance where they could sweep the front row. You look at the situations right now, I think you've got a very good chance with, Newgarden. You got a great chance with Dale if he can recapture the match. I mean, if he wins a pole today, he could become the second in all-time polls behind just Rick Mears at 5 today if he can win a pole today. And then you look at Pagano, who's been a threat, and then Will Power. But I'd say right now, if I had to pick one of the Penske's to get the P1 today, Power would be the easy pick. Because I don't think there is a guy on a road course or an oval over a single lap that is as fast and consistent as Mr. Power is.
I mentioned the crowd, the flock of crowds. You can kind of see where, what's going on with some of the big drivers, who's the most popular with the fans by the amount of people outside of their garages, the amount of people outside of their pit boxes. Another person that I saw just an enormous amount of people around, and I think you can guess who it would be, Danica Patrick in the GoDaddy car, Ed Carpenter Racing. I did not get a chance to talk to Danica. Danica's kind of standoffish like that, so I did get a chance to see her team working, and she seems very, very focused. No signs of Aaron Rodgers yet. I think we'll probably see him this weekend. We'll definitely see him next weekend. I'm quite sure of it. So those that are on Aaron Rodgers watch as well. But so no sign of that. But Danica Patrick, Ed Carpenter Racing. Danica, as you mentioned just a while ago, could provide a threat to the qualifying as far as position-wise. Go ahead.
I admit it. Like I said, I was skeptical that she could put all this together. I think coming into this month, I was thinking mid-pack start and maybe a threat, maybe for a top 10. But she has exceeded the expectations. Decent position in the draw. But it's interesting who also is up there. You got Spencer Pigot with an early draw. The guy, though, I think that's going to ultimately be the loser today as far as making the top 9 could be Ed Carpenter. As I mentioned, his son drew, and I was right in front of me, pill number 70 out of the bag. You can't do any